0447 local time, 9 miles southeast of Qashim Island. The USS Pioneer is pulling off something no other Navy ship can touch. Hunting for mines 3 miles off the Iranian coast, riding inside a hull made entirely of wood. Her captain has been inside the 3-mile line for 19 tense minutes. What he doesn't know? A Moager drone, propeller-driven, built for one job, is circling at 18,000 feet, beaming his exact coordinates ashore. 200 mines wait in the pitch black ahead. Pioneer's hull sonar paints the very first target at 0451. A Mahan 3 influence weapon, Iran's modern moored mine, 220 kilograms of high explosive, waiting 60 feet down on a tether, listening for the magnetic or acoustic whisper of a ship passing overhead. Think of it like a deaf bouncer at a club, dead silent until something loud and metallic walks in. After that, it doesn't ask twice. The captain logs the contact. He keeps pushing forward. He has 6 hours of daylight, 6 nautical miles of Strait of Hormuz shipping lane, and a suspected minefield turning the entire corridor into a death trap. The massive tanker waiting on him out in the Gulf of Oman. A very large crude carrier, nearly a quarter-mile of double-hulled steel hauling 2 million barrels of oil, anchored and burning $80,000 a day in war risk premiums. That kind of math forces focus fast. A few minutes later, Pioneer's sonar paints another contact 50 feet down, but this one isn't a mine. It is too long, too flat, wrong shape for a tethered sphere. Probably just a shipping container that washed off a freighter during a Shamel storm 10 years back. He drops it from the queue and keeps hunting. 11 mine-like contacts have already hit his display on this leg alone. Clearing the Strait of Hormuz is less like bomb disposal and more like sorting a dumpster blindfolded. Except some of the trash is live, and one mistake is fatal. 300 yards off that same grid square, Roadrunner 64 pulses a blue-green laser right through the water column. It finds absolutely nothing. The MH-60S Seahawk's airborne laser mine detection system pod only sees the top 30 feet of seawater. Anything below that depth might as well be hidden on the moon. The Archerfish, slung on her starboard pylon, stays locked on the rail. There is nothing in the laser's window to feed it. 4 platforms, 4 massive blind spots. Pioneer feels the Gulf floor down to 100 meters, but cannot tell a deadly mine from a rusty container without eyes on it. She is a 34-year-old wooden boat the Navy built back when the Cold War was actually cold. Irreplaceable, not because she is the best, but because she is the only one. Roadrunner 64 classifies a floating weapon in 2 seconds flat, but just cannot punch its laser below that shallow zone. Tulsa runs the deepwater lane with an AQS-20 Charlie Toad sonar the size of a small car, but she draws too much water for the shallows. Anything buried under the silt stays invisible until a diver physically swims down to touch it. Some contacts down there pack 220 kilograms of underwater high explosive, and the guy who planted them, he is watching you work from 3 miles away. High above Pioneer, that Mohaj drone circles, handing her exact position off to every single coastal battery on Qashim. It is the aerial equivalent of a guy on a balcony screaming your dinner order directly to the kitchen. Pioneer's radar warning receiver lights up, fades, then flares again. A Gaudier coastal search radar is throwing out intermittent pulses. 2 seconds on, 5 off, 2 on. That Iranian operator already has the Mohajir's live feed. He is just reminding the task group he is watching. It is the radar equivalent of slapping a passive-aggressive post-it note on their door. Helpful? Sure. but mainly just making sure you know he is home. 50 nautical miles south of Pioneer, off the Omani coast, Pelican 1 crosses the operating area at 28,000 feet. Her flight plan, filed as routine electronic surveillance. Airborne since 0315. The Iranians already tagged her as a P-8 on a standard listening run. Nothing to worry about and nothing to shut down for. Nobody on the Iranian side pays her any real attention. By 0541, 4 of Pioneer's 11 contacts get dismissed as debris. 1 is real, queued for the Seahawk. 3 more are queued for Roadrunner 64. The captain holds the Avenger class at 7 knots through the shallows. He is thinking about the hidden mines they haven't found yet. Miles behind him, Tulsa's sonar just painted its very first bottom mine out in the deepwater lane. The sun is barely up, yet every time that Gattier radar goes hot, a hidden player nobody mentioned is riding right down its frequency. At 0612, 3 things trigger in 90 seconds. Roadrunner 64 drops to 100 feet above the chop and pickles off her starboard pylon. The destructor kicks off the rail, slams into the water, and screams toward that Mahan 3 Pioneer flagged 40 minutes ago. Mike 1 comes off the board. What that weapon never heard coming was the Archerfish, a remote-controlled torpedo deployed on a high-tech fishing line. About 7 pounds of shaped charge on a fiber-optic leash flown by an operator stationed in point the back of the helicopter. You cannot jam the signal because it is a physical wire connecting the helo straight to the weapon. Picture a drone you fly straight into a bomb. No Wi-Fi, no signal to hack, just copper and raw explosives. The Archerfish runs about $200,000. That mine it just killed threatened a tanker hauling 180 million in crude. That is the kind of return on investment that makes hedge fund managers cry, range about 1 kilometer, like the White House to the Washington Monument. The pressure wave rips through the water. 1 second later, it slams hard against Pioneer's hull. Before the smoke even clears, Pioneer's Sea Fox hits the water. The tethered drone creeps from the stern well on a 3,000-foot umbilical. It glides toward the second Mahan 3, centers its crosshairs on the sensor dome, and detonates. Mike 2 is down. No lost comms, no signal jamming, nothing electronic for Iran to hack. This Sea Fox is older than most of the Pioneer's crew. 85 pounds, packing a 3-pound shaped charge. It uses a cable because the design predates reliable wireless. Picture a remote-controlled car dragged on a 3,000-foot extension cord, like your kid's toy, except this one swims down to a naval mine and headbutts it. The Iranian engineer who designed that Mahan 3 built it to destroy modern minesweepers. The Sea Fox isn't modern at all, but it is killing his mines anyway. 11 miles south is Tulsa's drone boat. The Navy sends it into Strait of Hormuz minefields because losing it means 0 American casualties. It drags an acoustic sweep rig at 14 knots, perfectly faking a 300,000-ton crude tanker. 3 Mahan 7 bottom mines buy the lie. They think a massive tanker is right overhead and detonate into empty water in 90 seconds flat. 3 485-pound warheads tricked by a duck call. 5 mines wiped out in 90 seconds off the Kashim coast. Suddenly, a Gattier search radar spikes to maximum power for the first time today. It paints the task group for 30 seconds, then goes dark. A hostile missile battery needs a solid firing solution before launch. That process starts with a search radar lighting up just long enough to lock down bearing, range, and speed. 30 seconds is plenty. The Noor is Iran's reverse-engineered version of the Charlie 802. They copied Chinese homework, just changed the font. 1,500 pounds, Mach 0.9, massive warhead. It has an active radar seeker in its nose, shouting into the dark and locking onto whatever echoes back. Picture a Volkswagen Beetle hitting 680 miles an hour, 3 feet above water. Peykaap to Pioneer is just 3.5 miles. That is like downtown Denver to the foothills, covered in exactly 30 seconds. The Iranian commander has not committed to his fire control radar yet. That is the final step before launch. He is staring at Pioneer through electronic binoculars, deciding if a wooden ship 3 miles off his coast is truly worth the massive political fallout. Every single time he lights up his Gadier, our side logs it. He just does not know it yet. The next threat appears at 0648, a Mahan 3 and 4 meters of water, dangerously shallow even for Pioneer. The captain pushes the Avenger inside the 3-mile line just to reach it. 3.5 miles offshore is the very edge of the danger zone. 3 miles puts him right inside. He knows the risk. So does the Iranian commander. He sparks his search radar for the second time in 20 minutes, holding it steady for 45 seconds. Roadrunner 6-4 circles at 700 feet. They spot the Mahan 3 shadow through the ocean glare and drop an Archerfish. Mine 6 is erased. The coastal radar immediately shuts down. Pioneer slowly backs the Avenger out of that 3-mile line at 5 knots. A wooden ship moving at a brisk walking pace, reversing away from a 165-kilogram warhead, flying at Mach 0.9. The captain notes to himself that he is definitely living the kind of life his Navy recruiter completely failed to mention. At 0711, 4 miles north of Pioneer, the dust hits. A shamal is a regional specialty, a brutal, dry, northwesterly storm that lifts half the desert and violently blasts it downwind at 40 knots. Visibility crashes from 12 miles down to 1 in under 10 minutes. Roadrunner 6-4's laser operator watches her display fade from clean hits to smeared static, then black. The pod is still firing, but the laser pulses aren't returning clean. Roadrunner 6-4 banks toward Tulsa and officially calls the abort. A tight cluster of 6 Mahan 3s up in the northern shallows targets the chopper was supposed to kill, drops right back onto Pioneer's lap. The Avenger is now covering a $40 million chopper using an old wooden hull, 1 Seafox, and 2 hours of daylight before the tanker window shuts. On the coast, that Iranian commander is watching the visibility vanish too. Pioneer calls it at 0724. The Avenger has to push 3.1 miles offshore to kill the mines that Roadrunner 6-4 was originally supposed to handle. That puts him deep inside the kill zone of every single Noor battery on Kashmir, and his air cover is grounded for the entire Shamal. If Pioneer takes a Noor missile hit inside 3 miles, that Avenger-class ship turns into kindling. The whole task group loses its only shallow water minesweeper for 6 weeks. The Marshall Islands' very large crude carrier. 298 meters of double-hulled steel. 2 million barrels. It sits another week, paying a 2% war risk premium. Meanwhile, a dozen more tankers reroute around the Cape of Good Hope, bleeding $1 million per voyage. The captain pushes deeper. The Jack H. Lucas follows him to 4.2 miles. Flat hexagonal panels on her superstructure run dead quiet. Right now, they are the counter-threat. The question isn't if the Iranian commander can lock a firing solution onto Pioneer. It is whether he thinks the Lucas can plant a missile in his launcher before his own weapon clears the rail. At 0812, Hawkeye calls it on strike common, spike coastal, bearing 040. Nor fire control is holding. The fire control radar is active. The Lucas's threat warning console paints that pulse right on her Combat Information Center display. Everyone from the tactical action officer down to the radar operator knows exactly what the next 30 seconds mean. Fire control radar doesn't stay lit unless they plan to use it. Doing so draws a high-speed anti-radiation missile inside 90 seconds. Lighting it up is the electronic equivalent of your wife using your first, middle, and last name. You know exactly what comes next, and running will not help. The Lucas's captain does not wait. His Spy 6 slams into full radiated power, whipping the main beam straight onto the Iranian launcher. The destroyer is now painting the Nor battery just as hard as that battery is painting Pioneer. The Spy 6 uses 37 active panels of gallium nitrate. It is a security camera that can read a license plate from 3 states away. It tracks a baseball at 165 miles, pulling enough electricity to power an entire Texas subdivision. Her magazines are full of SM6s, 3,000 pounds at Mach 3.5, 140-pound warhead, 240-mile range. That is 1 mile every single second and a half. By the time the Iranian operator finishes screaming incoming, the missiles are already flying in. The Lucas packs almost 100 VLS cells. The Nor battery has 2 reloads per launcher. The Iranian operator reads his own threat warning receiver. In 2 seconds, he realizes 3 things. The Lucas has geolocated his launcher. SM-6 missiles can reach him in under 4 minutes. And the Lucas decided she is not firing first. Then, his threat display does something it has never done before. Every radar he relies on, his own Goddard, the coastal early warning net, the battery's fire control emitter goes black across his screen simultaneously. Not jammed, not spoofed, actually online. Somewhere in a concrete revetment, an Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps duty officer is screaming into a phone. Every commander up the coast just got the exact same order from Tehran. Stop transmitting right now. The reason sits at 28,000 feet, 50 nautical miles south, where she has orbited since 0315. Pelican 21 is no P-8 on some routine listening run. She is an EA-18G Growler. Flying under a call sign the Iranians completely misidentified all morning. Carrying a full ALQ-28 signal intelligence suite, she spent 5 hours doing something far more dangerous than jamming. She has been listening. Every single time the Gadir went to full power just to remind Pioneer it was there. The Growler recorded the frequency, pulse repetition rate, operator signature, Mohajer drone uplinks, and every cross-network handoff between Bandar Abbas and Abu Musa. The Iranian commander thought he was just posturing. What he actually did was feed the entire IRGC coastal air defense network into an American database, one transmission at a time, like a poker player constantly flashing his cards during a bluff. Except the guy sitting across the table has a photographic memory and a pen. When the Lucas's Spy 6 went hot, Pelican 21 went loud, on 3 frequencies the Iranians never knew the Americans had mapped, not to jam, to announce. Every radar operator along the Keshem coast simultaneously saw an American emitter transmitting right on their own network's command channel. The message was clear. We are inside your system. We have been inside it all morning, and we can turn you off. The fire control pulse just cuts out mid-cycle. Somewhere near the Strait of Hormuz, an IRGC commander runs the same math every Iranian missile officer has calculated for 8 weeks, then runs a second equation his predecessors never had to. A 165-kilogram warhead against a wooden minesweeper just isn't worth the Arleigh Burke destroyer that will drop onto his battery at Mach 3.5 while his launch plume is still cooling. They also don't want to find out what else the Americans have hacked into all morning. The Iranians blink first. Nobody fires. Pioneer clears the cluster by 0903. 6 more Mahan 3s eliminated. For the second time, the captain pulls the Avenger back outside the 3-mile line. At 0927, Racket 51, hits the water. 4 explosive ordnance disposal divers from the USS Michael Murphy's inflatable boat are working a contact. A contact the Kingfish unmanned underwater vehicle couldn't verify using sonar alone. 42 feet of saltwater, mixed gas rigs, umbilical hoses pumping air and comms. Some jobs haven't changed a bit in 80 years. This is one of them. A drone can find the contact. Sonar maps it out. A chopper marks the exact coordinates. But when the radar says maybe a mine, maybe anchor chain, maybe neither, the only real way to know is sending a diver down there. The robots get you 90% of the way. That last 10% is still a guy in a wetsuit, reaching out, praying the object he touches doesn't blow him to pieces. Down at 35 feet, the silt clears. The diver sees the shape, a half-buried metallic cylinder, a Mahan 7. He confirms visual, slaps on magnetic pads, pulls the pin, sets the timer. Then he swims back, smooth and steady. He knows swimming faster doesn't make the bomb any smaller. 8 minutes later, a pressure column violently erupts 60 meters behind the boat. By 12:47, the Shamel winds finally break. Visibility clears right up. Roadrunner 64 relaunches carrying a fresh mine disposal payload. 23 mines neutralized. That beats the entire Avenger fleet during the peak of the 1987 tanker war. Pioneer's captain has been standing on the bridge for 13 straight hours. His wife thinks he works a desk job in Varan. He's going to let her keep believing that. This final stretch still holds 6 contacts Roadrunner 64 marked before the dust hit. He steers Pioneer back inside the 3-mile line. On the coast, the Iranian search radars stay completely dark, for now anyway. The last 6 contacts are cleared in 90 minutes. Pioneer makes 3 passes through the shallow northern stretch, pushing inside 3 miles of the Iranian coast. The Lucas shadows at 4 miles out. The Iranian search radars stay completely dark. Nobody on the coast wants to transmit on a frequency the Americans might already completely control. Roadrunner 64 fires Archerfish drones at the contacts the Avenger just can't get close enough to clear. By 14:17, the final Mahan 3 erupts into a massive pressure column behind Pioneer. The captain finally pulls the Avenger out of the danger zone and turns east. At 14:28, 4 fast-moving targets paint the Lucas radar screen, speeding out of Bandar Abbas, bearing 170, closing in at 52 knots. Peykaap class, Iranian fast attack boats, 17 meters, 14 tons, crewed by 3 men. Kauser anti-ship missiles mounted on the foredeck, 220 pounds, Mach 0.8, 13-mile range. A 65-pound warhead that rips open a frigate's hull like a tin can. Iran mounts these on a 17-meter speedboat with 0 armor. 4 $400,000 speedboats packing warheads are charging a $2.4 billion destroyer. It's the kind of math that gives Pentagon accountants nightmares, but keeps IRGC commanders highly interested. Pioneer's captain watches the radar and knows exactly what the IRGC is playing at. The newer batteries failed this morning. The radar network got mapped out. Now, the IRGC is escalating down the ladder. Small boats, visual posture, 0 missile lock, staying right outside the legal trigger line. Shoot first, and that footage hits Tehran State TV within the hour. Then the IRGC spends 6 weeks mining the Strait of Hormuz faster than our task group can clear it. The Lucas doesn't flinch. Her 5-inch Mark 45 gun locks onto the lead Peykaap at 6 miles out. But the Peykaap commander doesn't know that. His threat warning receiver won't tell him the grim truth. His boat was locked inside a Mark 45 firing solution the second his bow cleared the breakwater. Murphy's MH-60 chopper lifts off, crew chief ready on the door gun. Roadrunner, 64 circles overhead, door gun clearly visible. It's the helicopter equivalent of rolling up your sleeves at a tense family reunion. Nobody is throwing punches yet, but the message lands. The Peykaap's push to 4 miles. 3 miles. 2. At 1.7 miles, you can see faces through binoculars, but they remain too far out for an American captain to shoot first. The point boat rips a hard starboard turn. The pack follows, retreating toward Bandar Abbas. 7 minutes pass, and not a single round hits the water from either side. Down in the Lucas Combat Center, 4 firing solutions quietly fade to cold. Back in Bandar Abbas, 4 fast attack captains must explain to their commander why they ran. Picture that briefing. It is going to go about as well as telling your wife you went to the store and forgot the exact thing she asked you to buy. At 15:31, the Tulsa sonar paints a fresh contact in grid 47, Charlie. The exact same grid they swept clean at 0831 today. The Pioneer captain stares at the radar return for 5 seconds before the chilling reality hits. Iran is reseeding the lane right now, right as the task group finishes the sweep. Small wooden fishing dhows. This task group cannot clear and hold ground simultaneously. Sweeping takes 4 ships and 6 full hours of daylight. Holding the zone takes a massive fleet the Navy simply lacks in theater. He grabs the radio to Lucas. Our safe window is today. Push that first tanker through right now. We restart tomorrow. At 16:19, the Lucas blasts the cleared route coordinates across 4 separate frequencies. Every tanker captain waiting in the Gulf of Oman locks onto those waypoints under 60 seconds. 7 minutes later, a massive Marshall Islands supertanker named Pacific Meridian enters the chute. 298 meters of steel. 2 million barrels of crude headed to Singapore, the first commercial transit through the Strait of Hormuz in 6 weeks. Navigation lights burning bright, her transponder screaming her identity. At the helm, a captain who has not slept in 2 straight days. Up on the Pacific Meridian Bridge, the first mate watches the Lucas pass 4 miles out. He keys the radio with the only English he knows. Destroyer, destroyer. Thank you very much. The bridge watch on the Lucas acknowledges with a simple 2-click radio break. There is absolutely no line in the Naval Brevity Code for hell yeah. But 4 miles north of where the Pioneer worked the shallows, a 60-foot wooden dhow slips off the Keshem coast, fishing gear on back. No flag flying. No radar signature worth tracking. Absolutely no weapons worth a warning shot. The vessel creeps into the cleared lane at slow fishing speed. 200 meters in, the first Hayman 7 mine slides off the stern through a cargo hatch, settling into the sand. If you enjoyed this video, check out the other video on your screen right now. Thanks for watching.